you need to walk the walk and talk the talk. We can't just sit here and complain that we're not creating opportunities for ourselves. And I think part of it is that by creating opportunities for others, it sort of eliminates that imposter syndrome a little bit.
This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. On this episode of All Things Fitness and Wellness, I'm joined by Deborah Goldberg. From leading Zumba Fitness's launch across Australia, New Zealand, and Southeast Asia, which created tens of thousands of jobs in the process, to co-founding the Fuel Women's Fitness Business Summit, Deborah's impact on the industry is undeniable. In this episode, we're going to explore why Deborah felt the need to create a dedicated space for women in fitness leadership, what it took to carve out her niche in the event space, and her plans for an exciting leap into the American market in 2025. Plus, if you're a pickleballer, stay tuned to hear what Deborah has in store for the official HFA show in Las Vegas next March. Before we get to the episode, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcasts weekly featuring industry thought leaders and influencers. I'm your host, Chrissy Van, and this is ATFW. I'm thrilled on a couple of accounts, I'll say this morning and this afternoon, and really depending on the time of day you're listening. But the reason why I say both is because I have Deborah Goldberg joining me all the way from Australia. So a very good morning to you, Deborah.
Thank you, Chrissy, and good afternoon to you. And I'm thrilled to be here and be part of your incredible platform. So thank you for inviting me.
You basically came into my sphere because of the ripples and the waves that you're making in the North American fitness market at this time, because you are clearly not a stranger for those that are joining us, whether they're from Australia, New Zealand, because you've had incredible fuel programming there. So before we even start and learn a little bit about your background, tell people what is fuel, because if you've been on LinkedIn and in the fitness industry, and particularly if you are a woman in the fitness industry, I think it would be impossible at this point to not have noticed the fuel conversation.
Look, the pitch or the elevator pitch for Fuel is really a 1 day personal and professional development day for those aspiring and emerging leaders of the fitness, health, and wellness industry. We focus really on having that female leader presenters on our stage, right? That we haven't seen anywhere else. I've been in the industry for 15 years, a little bit over that, and attending so many conventions all around the world. I never saw that space, not only that I belong as a entrepreneur, as a woman, but also where are the leaders and people that I want to learn from. I don't discredit any of the men leaders because they running multi-million-dollar companies, but where do I reach out to those women leaders that are doing incredible things? I do have a stat that I saw just a few weeks ago, and I believe that only between 20 and 26% of speakers at any convention, not only in our industry, so between 20 and 26% of the speakers at any event are female speakers.
Wow.
We do have this incredible imposter syndrome that as women can stop us for reaching that opportunity and sitting on stage, right? Which is, and I've even had that experience within Fuel, reaching out to that CEO, said, come, this is a stage for you. This is a safe space. And they go, Deb, I don't know how to speak. I have public speaking fear. And I'm like, come on, there's so much you need to tell. There's such incredible story of achievement and success and representation that we need you on stage. So I believe that is a lack of self-worth, but also that training and skill development that as leaders of companies, we are not providing to our senior executives at that level, not only women and men, but we're not providing that skill. So it's very hard to then create that pipeline for women to go up that corporate ladder without that training and skill development.
So, we're going to take a little loop
Mhm.
here and learn a little bit more about your background and how that led to you actually launching Fuel. So, talk to me about your entrance into the fitness industry. What was it that was your calling, and what did you decide to tackle and take on for those that aren't familiar?
Well, so let's go back to maybe 2007, 2008. Just had my firstborn daughter, and I was actually working at a charter firm as a senior auditor. So, what?
There's a lot of pivots. This is why I'm always like, where was the calling? Because a lot of times I speak with, executive after executive that was like, I didn't start here, but eventually it lured
Yeah.
me in.
Yeah. And, growing up, I was born in Venezuela. So we migrated from Venezuela to Australia when I was in my late teens, right? So that um, culture shock or culture difference between a warm Caribbean country and coming to more Anglo country where, you're missing the heat, you're missing the music. But, going through that corporate journey, in becoming a auditor, I knew there was something missing in the industry, and also fitness has been part of my daily life. Right? Just I think I saw Schwarzenegger post something this week. I don't know if you saw it. Someone asked him, "Why do you work out every day?"
Yes, I
And he
just saw
goes,
this morning. That's why
"Right,
it's wild that you're bringing it up. The algorithm loves us.
right." What do you think? And this guy asking, "Why do you work out every day?" Well, I have breakfast every day. I go to the toilet every day. I walk my dogs every day. So why wouldn't I work out or move every day? So I was living my corporate life, working out every day, doing triathlons and all of it. And I actually saw, and I have to bring this, I actually saw a post that my cousin wrote on Facebook back in 2007. And she said, I just became a Zumba instructor. So from that, back in the day when we were geeks and used to post our status. Anyway,
Don't you love when those old statuses come back to haunt you where it's like,
yes,
on this day on memory lane, you're
they
like, well, that's a bit of a cringe, but here we are.
total cringe. So through that post and that Facebook update, funny enough, it ignited that flame in my belly. I'm like,
Incredible.
this is calling me. And from then, I took the initiative of reaching out to the guys in Miami, which then took us to launching the actual instructor trainings in 2009 here in Sydney, Australia. And really, the rest is history. We created a phenomenon. We were part of that global movement that created uh, business opportunities. We was just part of the GFC, and we had women coming out of being just staying home, just coming out and creating a business for their family. So it wasn't just an industry, not a movement just to filling group fitness timetables. It was more than that. It was creating jobs, communities, and getting people out of the couch. So
Yeah,
that
I'm gonna
was
pause you
really
for 1 second, just speaking to that community, because obviously those of us in the fitness industry, which are our listeners, are familiar with Zumba, but it is so wild to reflect on the phenomenon. There is a woman that I have worked with a little bit in my headquarters here where my YouTube or my podcast studio is based, and she was at an industry event and ended up winning a ticket to a Zumba cruise. And she had never
amazing.
been exposed to Zumba, like, she knew about it in the fitness industry, but it wasn't exactly her wheelhouse, so this was her first exposure to that community on a high level, and she describes the story of the energy
Mm,
that was on board and the camaraderie with the instructors and just that sense of community that was cultivated, and I kinda just wanted to highlight that because I think that, Zumba was kind of one of our early beacons of example of a female more so dominated at the time, and
mhm,
everything evolves in that space,
mm.
but of that community-based fitness that has this tremendous ripple effect from instructor right down to the consumer of the product. So I just want to highlight that because what you brought to your community in Australia, massive deal. And as you say, grew on a massive scale. So continue your little journey there.
Yeah, and you know, and I had the opportunity to work very closely with Alberto Perlman, which is an incredible leader and visionary. And he, even now, I'm not longer with the company, but is part of my DNA forever. Um, you can see that he listens to his community. He makes sure that that culture within the company is top down,
So important.
which is so important. And then when you become a Zumba instructor, I think that culture then goes down to your participants.
Hmm.
So it's an incredible community with the music and then that sense of belonging, right? And of course, I brought that into Fuel because that's really my strength in working with Zumba for so many years. I'm like, yep, this is it. My strength and my ability is to really create communities, create opportunities for those that are within my community and thrive. I love to see them thrive for their success and activate that flame inside their bellies. Um, yeah. I
Also,
get emotional.
fair. I mean, any
Mm.
undertaking like that is a massive amount of work, and there's a lot to be said of when that seed gets planted in oneself to decide I'm actually going to nurture it and watch this grow. So, tell me a little bit about that transition. You have this thriving career in the fitness industry. When was that aha moment of I actually want to make this thing and bring this to life? The fuel origin story, if you will.
So it's again, it's about that need. In entrepreneurs, we just see things a little bit differently. You know, it's like the crazy ones that can see through a specific lens or can see that particular gap within the industry. And I think it was just that 2018, 2019 movement all around the globe where women, you know, are standing up, are standing strong, are leaning in and grabbing that seat at the table. And I'm like, where in the industry this is happening? You know, I had other projects on the sidelines, some apps and stuff, but this was just calling me really, really strongly. I always say there's a corporate ladder, and I just see the ladder very singular, very that one. And not everyone can go up the ladder at the same time, but if we all come together as a community, we can just come and create that movement that is strong and people can hear us. And I think that's what's been happening within Fuel and how we've scaled, how we've been true to our mission as well. And it's all about human connection. So our first event was in 2019, even though I came up with the idea with who was my co-founder in 2018. And we had no more than 70 delegates in a room. But the one thing we knew we needed to have, we needed Emma Barry in the room. So she's the unofficial fuel matron. In 2019, we launched the event as a 2-day event. So day one was a intense leadership day with Emma. One-on-one, we had maybe 20 people in the room. And then the second day was a fuel summit where we cover topics such as social media, franchise, personal development, productivity. And we really had in the room those leaders within the industry at that moment. And the feedback was like, I needed this, right? So in the room, it's not women only. We need men in the room to make that change. So of course, 90% of the attendees were women, 10% very brave men in the room, including my husband. Well, he has no
Shout out.
choice. He has no choice, or yeah. So he was in the room too, and he actually said, "Wow, what you created is going to really change the industry." So the next 2 years, we know what happened.
Mhm.
We're not going to talk about
Little
that. So
intermission with the world.
little, that's it, and we were back very strong in 2022.
With you
Right.
talking about the males being in the room, maybe emphasize a little bit about why that is such an important part about
Mm.
fueling all of us forward. See what I did there?
I love it. I love it. It is, you know, change. We all need to be in the room. to make change. And I feel how women, we talk differently, we sell differently. There's an empathy, there's a nurturing, innate feeling that comes to us, right? While men are a little bit more focused on being competitive, there's a hierarchy within that leadership. So by having those male in the room that are leading women in their team, they need to understand us a little bit more. And I think by being in a business summit, they're like, okay, I can just chill a little bit. They're not with that armor trying to sell something. They can come and go, well, I am nurturing my team. I'm creating loyalty. I'm creating innovation by inviting my team to be in the room and being surrounded by everyone who's there to really upskill themselves.
You've taken on the event in Australia. I know that you put on events in New Zealand as well. And then you were like, maybe we travel all the way across to the United States. And naturally, there's plenty of fitness conversation happening here. I don't know the statistics, but I have attended IRSA, obviously now known as the Health and Fitness Association. You go to a Beyond Active, you go to the Fitness Technology Summit, and there is that disparity in the room in regards to male versus female in leadership. So you're bringing it to the United States in 2025. I know that planning is well underway, but talk to me a little bit about that decision and also maybe some of the challenges as well of breaking into this new market.
Wow, Chrissy, so much to tell you. I feel the challenges are the same wherever we put events, uh, and we need to stay true to our mission. And it's all about that human connection, that experience that we create in the room, and of course, working in Australia and creating a community there in New Zealand, but bringing it to the US, where I have so many friends there. And just like you can see my work through LinkedIn. They're like, Deb, we need fuel. You need to come to us and fuel us. You got to fuel us up, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm hosting a really cool activation at HFA in Las Vegas.
I'm already training over
Are you
here.
training stretch? Uh, we hosting a pickleball tournament on the Wednesday morning. So if you are attending HFA, please slide into my DMs, reach out. We'd love to have you in the court with us and connect, and then working to really host the event in October. And also, I need to give credit to our fuel ambassadors that are helping us create that space and bring that talent into the room. There's Amanda Chan Burrell in New Zealand and the wonderful Jessica Armstrong between Europe and in the US. And she's been a great support to me and Fuel in the past, 6 months. So yeah, just want to acknowledge them.
Absolutely. Well, and really, we have been seeing this momentum grow in real time on LinkedIn being really the primary social platform that I feel from a business side we all
Mhm.
interact. And within that, you've also been gathering to have these monthly discussions with those in the community. So talk to me about why community has been such a pillar and what happens in those discussions. Why decide to add this to your plate, really?
Right. Again, is by listening to our community. We can't service our community once a year. We can't just put an event, 6, 7 hours, here you go, and then forget about them. And that's part of the strategy of scaling Fuel, not only as a brand, but as a community. So this year, we launch what is called now Fuel Circle, which it is our business network membership. And we get together every month through virtual meetups. We, of course, provide product discounts, fuel discounts, and by 2025, really focus on launching those micro learning courses that are so important for our community.
And I think you and I spoke, and I know I spoke to Jessica about this too. And I think it's why I've thought what you're doing is so neat. I'm an avid motorcyclist, and similarly to the fitness industry, we are such a huge minority. We're supposed to make up 25% of the market in the next couple of years, but that's still such a baby of a market. And what I find when I go to events is that incredible collaboration. It is not that competitive mindset. We want to all win, we want to all elevate, we want to all learn from each other. And there is that different energy of vulnerability when you do have these spaces that are created to cultivate that. For those that are heading into 2025, which hopefully is all of us. But I'm like,
Fingers
as
crossed. Fingers
let
crossed.
me, I'm like, we're all in the health and wellness industry. So I should reverbalize that as we head into 2025. What would be some of your top pieces of advice that you've picked up along the way from these incredible experts that you've heard speak at your own events when it comes to women in leadership? What are some of your top tips to garner more success for ourselves and perhaps even combat some of that imposter syndrome that seems to be a very common thread no matter how we've progressed within our own careers?
Look, I believe, just like I said, you need to walk the walk and talk the talk. We can't just sit here and complain that we're not creating opportunities for ourselves. And I think part of it is that by creating opportunities for others, it sort of eliminates that imposter syndrome a little bit. So why don't become a mentor for someone? Why don't you become a sponsor for someone that is in your workplace or even a family member, and open the right door for them? Show them the way. Humble yourself a little bit. I will do that. I reckon upskill yourself as well and be around. Come to feel, of course. Um, that's what I would do, definitely. Sponsor and mentor someone.
And you are obviously a forward thinker. So you have on the
Mm.
docket for the big plans for 2025, but where do you actually see this going in the long term?
In the long term, I see fuel um, growing, of course, and scaling, uh, and just go with the flow, listening to what our community needs, provide again that micro learning education, bring those experts into the room with us. If you're going to talk about AI, bring that AI expert into the room. Even next year, we'll have someone talking about legal and franchise and social media. Inviting Canva to tell us a little bit about their new features.
Oh, you highlight such a good
Mm.
element there because sometimes you show up to events and it's really fitness industry talking to fitness industry. So how beneficial have you found it by drawing from the outside industries that perhaps have a different perspective?
If you're asking someone to invest in your event, you need to provide that value back, and you need to provide that expertise back into them. So it is super important to have that expert in their field on stage. I know people use Canva every day or they use ChatGPT, but the way we use it is so different to that person who's created that, that tech or that particular product.
It is this tremendous value add to be able to draw from those that firsthand have brought the technology to the forefront and perhaps will know how to utilize it in ways, to your point earlier, where it's kind of like our brains are malleable. There's not one way or one ladder of thinking about something. So it's kind of opening up and diversifying our mindset on upskilling our skill set. Because out of all your actionable advice, I think upskilling our skill set, especially right now, could not be more important because we have all these tools that are really accessible to the masses. Like I saw
Mm.
one of our colleagues within the industry yesterday post this incredible video of her daughter who has an idea for a company. And I think she's about 8 years old and creating a vision board on Canva. And so I'm just kind of like, now more than ever, I think, and I'm sure you would agree, we can't be resistant to the changes that are happening in our workflow either. We really have to be in a sense of aggressive adaptation.
Oh, totally. And the way we also consume has changed,
Yeah.
right? Our algorithm changed, even though our algorithm is the same.
Yeah. You and I are on the same wavelength fully today from start to finish.
but we have that generational change,
Mhm. Well,
right? So we, mhm.
I was going to say, speak to me about that because you and I talked about this in a call before where that's another element of the industry that I have noticed, having just been in it a few short years, that sometimes those that have had tremendous success and stories, but they are the ones with the 30, 40-year tenures that have grown and created this behemoth of an industry, aren't necessarily in communication with these incredible Gen Zers that are coming up with all these innovations. So talk to me a little bit about that gap and why it may be important to build a bridge between the two.
And I think I feel we are building that bridge. When we say, and one of our values is activating that leadership ability to our aspiring and emerging leaders, right? We need to connect and be together and listen to the stories that maybe happened 20 years ago and really be open as to how that emerging new generation is consuming fitness. We need to be open as the leaders in our 30s, 40s. We need to be open to that new generation and understand how they're going to bring that new consumer into our gyms, who is creating new programs that are going to be launched, not the next Zumba, but who out there is creating new education and how we are providing that education.
All well and good to talk about the good old days. But yeah, to your point, these new days, the level of growth that's happening is at a speed that we've never experienced in humanity before. To your point, even just something as simple as using AI as the example, it is insane how that has ripple affected into how most people at this point operate their lives, whether they like it or not, even within our own search systems on Google search, and you have Google AI, like, and now we're having to sift through what is real and what is not. And so these are really real problems to solve and also really real opportunities. And it's just generating such a different level of conversation. But the main thread that binds us all, and really what brought you into this industry, is, of course, that deep understanding that what we are bringing to our communities ultimately is something that does create change in the world. And we do have the physical inactivity crisis, but those that embrace movement know that we are at the forefront of physical health, mental health, social health. So, to kind of round out the conversation, Deborah, I want to hear from you the fact that you did not necessarily intend to come into this industry, but it's obviously one that has very much changed your life. So, talk to me about how much making that leap into the fitness industry has changed who you are as a person and what your outlook might be.
Maybe I'm going to be too deep, maybe going to
It's
therapy now.
I actually love deep, so please, like, this is what
Yeah,
this is all about.
definitely. And I know by being within audit, I really enjoy talking to the different clients, but um, I know I found myself within the industry. I had that sense that this is where I belong, right? I can be me, I can be creative, I can be quirky, I can be me and be authentic. And whoever doesn't like it, well, tough love. And I think that is the beauty of our industry. We are a people industry. We change lives. So the moment it changed my life, I knew I had to, there was a calling out there for me to be able to change other people's lives. So that's why I thrive by connecting others. And that's something we do at Fuel. I love introducing people, creating that business opportunities for others. I'm here in Australia, you're in Canada, we're wearing pink. We're accepting each other. We belong in the same space. So that's something very powerful from our industry that I haven't seen anywhere else.
Beautifully said, and it really
Mm.
is adding that exponent to us all. So I appreciate what you're doing to open up the conversation for those that are interested in learning more. And again, open to all, because as you mentioned, it was maybe about 10% of the room that were male, but there is a very big reason why they should have a seat at the table to be able to hear from this community. So how can they connect?
And most importantly, when you sit at that table, you need to bring a chair with you,
Yes.
right?
Chair with
So
you, plop a seat down.
please, please, um, please connect with me. You'll find me on LinkedIn. You'll find us on fuel/summit.com. Please join us in Auckland on the 21st of Feb. HFA 12th of March, but you will need to reach out to me. 8th of May in Sydney. And please save the date, 27th, 28th of October, somewhere in California.
Well, we will be keeping a close eye on where that somewhere in California ends up. Very excited for you to have
Thank
this
you.
debut in the United States. And I know all the work that you're putting in now will for sure be worth it. And for those listening, be warned. I am a very friendly, jovial person, and I will be gathering content at this pickleball event, but I also will be bringing my A game. So I will see you in the kitchen. Thank you so much,
We'll be
Deborah.
wearing pink.
Yes. I really appreciate your time, especially it being bright and early for you.
No, thank you, Chrissy. Thank you for all the work you do. And I'm just delighted to be part of your podcast. You know, your guests are next level. So I'm thrilled to be your next guest.
You've just listened to the All Things Fitness and Wellness podcast, hosted by Chrissy Van. This episode was brought to you by Fitness World, your fitness, your way. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry insiders and influencers. Together, we're on a mission for everyone to live a life fit and well.